Do you want an obscure historical fiction novel? I have the book for you. Okay, so today's novel isn't necessarily obscure because it's like lost to time or something. It was published in 2003 by Tim Gautreaux. It's called The Clearing. It takes place in New Orleans, and I think it's 1925. It's early 20s. It's after World War I, because one of the big plot points is PTSD, because at the time it didn't actually have a name. It was just called shell shock or battle fatigue, and there wasn't really any experience with it, so people didn't know how to treat it and how to react to it. At the core of this novel is a story of brotherhood. This man Randolph is sent from up north down south to New Orleans to rescue his brother Byron, who is working as a constable at a lumber mill. Byron is dealing hardcore with PTSD and has a hard time dealing with people and coping. He listens to music at night, he drinks, and he's very violent. But the lumber mill itself is very violent. One of the more important aspects of this novel is the journey that Randolph has to take in order to understand his brother, because his brother has done terrible things in the war, and he discusses it at length in this book. And when Randolph acts like he's disgusted, doesn't want to hear about it, Byron says, "You wanted me to talk, so now I'm talking." There is an ultimate display of sacrifice in this book. There are a lot of religious and like themes of Christianity in it, which is important to note that Tim Gautreaux is religious. He is from New Orleans, so he's writing sort of from a physical experience, even though he himself never went to war. It's a very beautiful book. It's very atmospheric. If you've ever been in the South in the summer, it feels like the South in the summer. He talks about how like wet the air is, that you might as well not even dry your clothes because it's going to be just as wet outside with sweat and humidity. And it's like you know that if you've been in the South in the summer at all, you know what he's talking about. And just the things that Randolph has to go through, and one of the decisions he has to make, gives him a little bit more insight into why his brother is the way he is and why he's sort of running from his family. How his dad, whose only experience with war has been like, the Civil War has happened and the Revolutionary War before that, and wars were always this big beautiful thing full of glory and honor for your family, and he really pushed Byron to join. And then World War I was just terrible all around, and then all these men came home and were expected to pick up where they left off. So this explores that a little bit, that unnamed at the time PTSD affecting like a whole generation of men and what it takes to sort of bring them back. This was the second book I read for Southern Lit. It was also really good. It was a pretty quick read. My used copy is a really nice hardcover. It does have deckled edges though, which I don't normally mind, but I've discovered I really hate it for school books because sometimes you have to flip to pages really quick. You cannot do that with deckled edges. So I can't really find anything unless I annotate with like sticky notes, and I don't really do that. I mean, I write in it. Let's see if I write in my book, so it's like I like to be able to flip and see what I've written, and I can't do that with a deckled edge. But I'm surprised it was such a nice hardcover for as cheap as it was. I'm reading the third book for that class now, and I actually get to meet the author in 2 weeks because she's coming to our class, so that's going to be pretty cool. But this one does not, I think, get the kind of love it needs. Again, considering how old it is, if you like historical fiction, if you like family dramas, if you like atmospheric novels, I'm trying to think of any other thing that you can think of. There are some racial issues brought up in here. It's not a very like racially significant book, but there are some significant things that happen racially. And our teacher actually interviewed Tim Gautreaux, and he made the point of saying, it's like, well, you put people where they would be. So if you're in New Orleans, there's going to be African American people and white people in the same space. Now, how they interact and the hierarchy of stuff is also kind of talked about. But there is some important issues that happen with race, but it's not a racial novel. It is, again, at its heart, a brother having to understand his brother that has PTSD. There's a lot more kind of parallels to industrialization and things that you can look at, but that's what the core meat of this novel is. It was really good. I don't give star ratings. I definitely don't give ratings to school books because I'm delving into those way more than I would a normal book that I just read for fun. But this one was a good read for fun. Again, you heard the list. If you like any of those things, read it. If not, skip it. That's fine. I'm going to be reading some really weird stuff for school, so I completely understand if people are like, that doesn't sound like fun for an everyday read, but this would be a fun everyday read, maybe during the winter, so you don't feel so hot in the middle of summer reading this like I did, because this was a chore. It's, again, very atmospheric, but very good. So that was the second book that I read for school this semester, The Clearing by Tim Gotro.